Hello Internet, my name is the Golden Stalfos, and today we're going to be continuing our discussion on how remakes should be done. I'm going to leapfrog a little bit in the Zelda franchise because I want to talk about the best 2D Zelda game, Link's Awakening. Now, the Link's Awakening remake only just recently came out for Switch a little while ago, and um, it's not a terrible remake all in all. It has several quality of life improvements, and it's obviously a big visual upgrade because you go from Game Boy Color graphics to Switch graphics. I'm not really a huge fan of the art style. Like, it still looks fine, but it looks plasticky and weird in a lot of places in a way that I just don't agree with. Like, I'm fine with Link's Awakening being cartoonish because the original was, and that's fine, but it's weird to make it look like toys, I guess. The remake does have a couple of problems. The biggest one is definitely just the fact that it doesn't change the game at all. There are quality of life improvements, and there's a graphical upgrade, and that's probably worth it, especially if you've never played the game before. It is the best 2D Zelda. But they don't do anything new with the dungeons or the progression or anything. It's the same as it was, and that's weird. Also, while the quality of life is better in this game, it's not as good as it should be. For example, you have dedicated buttons for sword, shield, Pegasus boots, but not your Rock's Feather, which you basically always need to have on you. Certain things like your power bracelet aren't necessary to equip, they just become passive upgrades, which is great. That makes way more sense. But yeah, quite frankly, sword, shield, Pegasus boots, and Rock Feather should all have dedicated buttons, right? Your attack, your block, your jump, and your run should all be dedicated. Quite frankly, you have enough buttons for that. The Switch has 4 face buttons and 4 shoulder buttons, or 2 buttons, 2 triggers, whatever. You can easily have A to attack, B to jump, one of your shoulder buttons to block and the other one to run, and still have 4 buttons left over for item mapping. Heck, if you want to have a dedicated grab button on one of your shoulders, you could do that too, and still have 3 slots left over for item mapping. Instead, they only made 3 of these things have dedicated buttons, and there's still only 2 slots to map items. There's just like so many wasted buttons. So many more buttons you could be using to enhance the experience, and you're not. And also, this kind of breaks the game anyway. The original game wasn't designed with the intention of you having more than 2 items on hand at any time, and one of them is usually going to be your sword. Because of this, there are many sections of the game where you can just kind of float past it in a way that you weren't really originally supposed to be able to because you have more things available to you than you were supposed to have originally. And quite frankly, if they counted for this and upgraded the dungeons or the enemies or anything, it would be really cool and you could have a really advanced play experience. But as is, it's just like, hey, let's take this game that we all beat 20 years ago, make it even easier, and then do it again? For $60 now? I mean, they added a hero mode, but like, Not being able to pick up hearts in the overworld doesn't make the game that much harder. I mean, don't get me wrong, hero mode is a nice option. Zelda games didn't used to have difficulty modes, and this is at least something, but it's not that much, and it doesn't make the gameplay experience fresh, it just means you might die a little bit more often, maybe. I would have loved to see a Master Quest mode, or, some sort of hidden treasures that weren't there before, or like anything new. This is the best 2D Zelda game they've ever made, but there are other 2D Zelda games they've made since this one that have made partial improvements on the formula. The Oracle games had the same engine basically, and they were not individually better games because of the various ways they fell short. One game focused exclusively on puzzles, and the other one focused almost exclusively on combat, and it's not the same as having one tight focused game that really does both really well. But the puzzle heavy one had some really cool advanced items for puzzle solving that aren't in this game, and the combat one had some really cool advanced things to make combat more interactive that aren't in this game. And you know, that's without even bringing up much more recent titles like A Link Between Worlds. My point is that there's been a lot of innovation in the series over the years, and almost none of it is present here. None of it is put on display. No real design work had to go into the game this time, even though it still cost $60. Why, Nintendo? Why? Come on, guys. Put some effort in. Like, I'm not saying you had to build a whole new game from scratch. You could literally just do anything interesting with the existing mechanics of this game and add one or two things on top of it. That's it. That's all I asked for. Couldn't do it. So yeah, Nintendo just dropped the ball on this one. Like, it's the same game. Link's Awakening is still the best 2D Zelda, so if you play the Switch version, you will still have the best 2D Zelda experience you can have. But it could have been better than it is. It's really sad that the best 2D Zelda game is the one that came out before there was color on the screens. Like, I don't know. They did also upgrade the music. It's no longer the compressed Game Boy Color sounds, but I assumed that would be the case. It sounds great, it looks great, you know, like, duh. But it still just feels like they didn't put in quite enough to make it worth $60. Granted, if you've never played the game, this is probably a better way to play it than the original because of those quality of life improvements, but it's not that much better. If you have played the original, it's questionable whether those quality of life improvements are worth the extra amount of money, especially considering you'll probably only play through it once. There is some other cool new stuff. There's this thing where you can make your own dungeons and play them with your friends and stuff, and that's cool-ish. It's pretty limited in what you can do with it. It does give some better replayability at least. I'm sure there are some really good fan-made dungeons out there. I don't know that I've come across any of them, but I'm sure they're out there. So if that's something you're interested in, then you can at least do that. But overall, it just feels like they really skipped out on it. Like, when they decided to remake A Link to the Past, they didn't just do the same thing. They added a really advanced new mechanic and a new story and revamped the dungeons and made this really cool, really tightly designed experience around this really, really fun gimmick mechanic, and still sold it for handheld price instead of console price. But at the very least, this was a game that actually needed an update and got one, so I suppose I can't complain too much. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good game. I enjoyed. Alright, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next live. Laters. Hey, thanks for watching that video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all that stupid YouTube crap. Also, you can find me on Twitch at the Golden Stalfos, obviously. On Wednesdays, me and my girlfriend stream playthroughs of games she's never played before, and that's a lot of fun. And on other days, I will sometimes randomly do a challenge run or something if I'm feeling like it. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter to make extra sure you get video notifications. And I have a Patreon, if and only if you have money to burn. But to be fair, if you have money to burn, you should also consider some charities. There are always a few linked in my description, just in case. Oh, and be sure to leave positive comments down below for my girlfriend who volunteered to edit my videos for free because she's awesome. And yeah, thanks for watching.